Welcome to 1991 Movie Rewind, a podcast where we watch and review every movie released in 1991, from the all-time greatest classics to the critically panned and everything in between. We will rediscover forgotten fan favorites and uncover hidden gems as we explore the depths of direct-to-video. Join us in our celebration of the fun, unique, and diverse films of this highly underrated year. This week, we watched Rolling Thunder. In Rolling Thunder, it is the year 2040, and only a handful of people around the world have survived due to poisoned skies and seas. Uncle Robbie, played by Ian Abercrombie, gathers the kids around a campfire to regale them with stories about what life used to be like traveling the world as a professional surfer. Screenplay by Scott Dittrich, directed by Scott Dittrich, and released on June 4th, 1991. I know you haven't seen this movie before.
No, I haven't.
Because there's very little information to be found on this. It's worth noting, we'll mention it again at the end, but it's available on the Surf Network, which is available through Amazon Prime as like a free trial. But to emphasize how much misinformation there is online, or just how little information there is online about this movie is mislabeled as being from 1983. On that service. So like even its own service, the Surf Network itself is mislabeling it on Amazon. The release date that we have for this, June 4th, came from a poster image that we found online because IMDb does not have that information. And so we were able to find some sort of promotional poster image online that lists all kinds of different premiere tour dates across the California coast, and the earliest one that we could find on that poster was June 4th, so that's what we're going with. So it actually could have been earlier than June 4th, but it is 1991, not 1983. There is no 1983 Rolling Thunder, as far as I know. So yeah. But it's really strange that there isn't that much information, because it seems like for people who are into like extreme sports or the surfing community, that this should be more well known, that this should have more of an audience or cult following or something. Right.
And I think maybe now it does?
I don't know.
I mean, they're
not transporting that love and knowledge online yet.
They have it on, Amazon Prime.
Yeah, but with the wrong year.
Unless it was just, I don't know. I was trying to find stuff about this movie, and there was, it was very hard to find. It's did they just make it for the surfing community only?
That has to be the core audience. When I worked at video stores, there was occasionally movies that would come out that were geared towards that community. Usually by Warren Miller. I'm not sure if you've heard that name before.
No.
He plastered his name all over sort of, surfing and snowboarding and extreme sports types of videos, and he's a big name director in that field. And, they would get rented out relatively often back at that store. But, it caters to a specific audience, and they don't try to shoehorn a story into most of those. It's really just showcasing how good these professionals are, letting them perform tricks and stunts, and maybe have a section of bails and falls and stuff like that. But I think that's sort of what they're going for here, except they added in this stupid story about a post-apocalyptic future to use as chapter breaks for the various music videos that ended up being whatever the movie was. So what I think is also really interesting, and why this doesn't have more information about it, is because of that soundtrack. So, like I just said, it's mostly music videos in a sense, because each segment has its own song attached to it, And then once the songs end, they go back to the campfire.
Yeah, but
and then they start a new song.
An official video.
No, not an official music video, but they could be treated that way.
They don't really play the whole song, though. It's probably like 2 minutes of a song.
It depends on the song, but yeah, you're right. They don't always play the full thing. But I think where I'm going with that is that the musical artists that are in this are very big names.
Mm-hmm.
And so the combination of having the top of the line surfers of the era combined with top of the line music like Metallica and the Pixies and who else
Midnight
do we have?
Oil.
Midnight Oil and some of these other people officially part of the soundtrack. It's weird that it doesn't have more eyes on it, or that it wasn't really, it hasn't caught the mainstream wind that some of these other surfing movies might have. So, I don't know. Maybe it's just because it might not have gotten a lot of distribution in the home video market. I'm not 100% sure that there's a VHS of this movie out in the wild. So that could be a big contributing factor, is that not enough people were able to see it at the time, and so it hasn't really gotten that word of mouth.
Right.
I guess the real question is, should it? The story, like I mentioned before, is not strong at all. You have this pack of kids and this older guy, Ian Abercrombie, who's playing Uncle Robbie, who is supposed to be the adult version of Robbie Page, professional surfer, and the main person you follow along the individual segments. And he's basically just telling these kids, this is what life used to be like before the world, forced us to live into a cave.
Right.
And
it seemed like the world was dying in like a week.
Yeah.
Because they were like saying, oh, well, we're going to be dead. I don't know. It was very, I feel like this movie should have been shown to kids in like middle school or high school to be like, hey, the world's dying. Or like to teach kids about global warming.
Yeah, except it doesn't teach anything at all.
Well, I mean, it's show. I mean, you show the surfing, but like near the end where it starts showing like all the pollution and like all the sea animals dying, it could be like some sort of educational movie. That's what I was getting. I was like, this is a movie that I'm surprised I didn't watch when I was in school, because I used to watch like what weird educational stuff that was like shown, like some days will be like a teacher will pop in a movie and it'll be supposedly educational, right. And I feel like this would have been one of those movies.
Yeah, and it definitely has a very kids movie vibe at times, because the music, while you have like this rock of Metallica and Pixies and all these other people, in the campfire segment, it's basically the most generic kids Oompa music you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, when he's talking to these kids, it's very... I could have done without the entire him explaining to kids.
It doesn't work.
About surfing.
It's very heavy-handed. Even though there's very little actual substance to it, it's mostly just saying, and then we went to
Africa. And then it's
then we went to Baja California.
Yeah, and then we went to Mexico. It's like, these kids don't know. If they're living in a cave in the middle of nowhere, they'll be like, where the hell is Mexico? Where's California? Where's Africa?
We don't know what the coast of our own country looks like.
Right.
We don't know what clean water looks like, so we don't know what the difference is between the different cities. So it's phrased like that for us, the audience, rather than from them, because they're gonna.
But they're all just like, yeah, wow, and then they're like, tell us about the next place you went to.
And then they also ask stupid questions that lead into other segments, like, well, how old do you have to be to surf, Uncle Robbie? And then, it goes to
they
segment
show
of,
like
a
5-year-olds
surfer with a
boogie
couple of his
boarding
kids
and stuff. It's like you
Yeah.
can start at the age of 0 or whatever.
It's dumb. And, they definitely tried to shoehorn some environmental messages in there to a degree. But they never reconcile the fact that this whole time they're professional surfers who are going on,
like a surfing
jeeps
trip
and jets to get from one place to another just to surf.
Yeah.
So like they're
causing the pollution.
They're complaining about there's way too many people on this beach and they're throwing their trash everywhere. So we took a private jet to this new location so we could find some clean waves. Good message. Right. So, but isn't it sad that the dolphins are dead?
Right.
Yeah, it's I could do without it, and I think honestly, like the cinematography of those campfire sections is the worst because it's really just pure orange. The entire thing is this really putrid orange color, which does not lead to the appeal of that either. So you have these little kids who don't know how to act because they're not trying to be professional actors. They're just whoever the director probably pulled in, including his own kid. I think I saw in the credits.
Oh, just said some kid.
Yeah, like it had the same last name as the director, so I'm assuming that
one
of
was
those kids
credit some kid.
No, they had names, but I don't think that's the thing. Like IMDb doesn't really have credits, but the movie on Surf Network does, and I did not really look them all up individually, but I noticed that.
So he pulled his own kid in.
Yeah, I think he pulled his own kid, and whoever else wanted to just say a line in front of the camera.
Like the kid's friends. Or
yeah, the only actual actor is Ian Abercrombie in this one. So, yeah, those sections are really just meant to make it so it has some sort of a story, and that it's not just 2 hours of watching people surf in different locations.
I would have rather seen that. Like, just show dudes surfing or just people surfing, and then you could have used the music, because the music sort of told the story, because a lot of the lyrics kind of went along with the scenery. Yeah.
What was the first Midnight Oil song that was on there? Your green world is just about to end.
Yeah, that's why I was like, did they make these songs specifically for this movie?
I don't think most of them did. No, I think they're just licensed from that record company, Elektra, I think it said on the poster. But, they found ones that fit the best.
Right.
So the music works well. The cinematography, the beginning parts where they're actually surfing, automatically looks great. I think it kind of tapers off a bit near the middle where it's mostly shots from the shore looking out into the sea or ocean, wherever it is. But in the opening scenes, at least, you have a couple of underwater shots where you have people who are actually in the waves with the surfers, more up close and underneath and everything, and it looks amazing, especially for like 1991. I don't know how early that technology developed, but it's really interesting to watch that stuff. Very up close. You have some aerial views as well, looking down to them. I think what really hurts it to me is that I don't know anything about surfing, so I don't know when they're performing good tricks or where it's just, they managed to stay standing.
Yeah, it's like they've been on the board for longer than 2 seconds. Like, they didn't fall.
Good muscle control.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I don't know what's fancy and what's not. It's like, oh yeah, you're in the middle of that tube, and now
that's
not.
Cool.
It just looks cool. I just don't know. It doesn't give me a sense as to how good they are professionally, because I just don't know anything about the tricks. And the narrator is not telling us anything about that. They're just
because he's explaining to little children. He's not going to be like, I did a 360. I don't even know any of the terms.
I mean, why not? Like, why not just say, and then we did this kickflip burial, whatever.
I did a 180 and then whatever. And then the kids will be like, what the hell is that?
At least with something like skateboarding, it's easier to tell when someone's doing something impressive because you can physically see the twists and the turns. You can see, if they're doing ground tricks, you can see the manuals.
Surfing, you're trying to just stay afloat and not fall into water.
Yeah, it's easier to focus more on the water movement rather than the person on the board. And so, just the nature of
waves, depends on the wave.
Interacting everything else is fascinating, and then to have the board is kind of almost secondary in a sense to me, just when I'm looking at it. I think the other thing that hurts this movie is that they do have a lot of professional surfers in this movie, but we are not really introduced to them very well. A lot of the times it's like, hey, my buddy Tom came with me on this one, or here's my guy Martin.
Yeah, I mean, at the end with the credits, there was like 25 different names.
And several of the, if not all of the world champions from like a 15-year stretch are in this movie. You got Kelly Slater making an early appearance. I don't know if he was mentioned by name at all, but he was in the credits. Martin Potter, Tom Curran, Tom Carroll. Names that some of you out there may know. Kelly Slater, I think, is the biggest one to people of our generation, just because he was the champion around that time, and he had video games, sort of like Tony Hawk had Pro Skater, he had Pro Surfer. So they're in there, but when you know, like, unless you know them by face already, you're not gonna know who's who. It's just like, here's my buddy Tom. Oh, okay, cool. Hi, Tom. Oh, yeah, hi, Martin, Mark, whatever. I don't know. So it would have been nice to have this be more accessible to the general public, because if you're telling it sort of like a kid's story, treat the audience like kids in a sense and say, yeah, these guys are amazing, here's who they are, get to know them. You know, give them a reason to understand who they are and why you should follow their careers if you found what they did interesting. But that doesn't happen. So instead you just get a bunch of home movies, really, or at least packaged like home movies.
Yeah.
Some of it's definitely like 16mm film. You can see a lot of artifacts on the edges of the screen, like gate hairs and stuff like that. Here and there. Sometimes it's in black and white, but rarely. And you see them like goofing off in the fields with like sheep and kangaroos when they're in Australia, or when they're in LA. They show like some of the graffiti from like the Venice area, I think.
Yeah.
You know,
and then like when they went to South Africa, I think, and you know, you see like they went to some safari where there's, you know, zebras and whatever running.
Yeah, giraffes, and they show brief shots of tribes and things like that.
Right.
So they try to package
them
this
like
with
interacting with them, with the locals. I mean, them when they were in Mexico, you know, they were
talking to little kids selling off little
like trinkets and stuff.
Ideas. So I think they do a pretty good job of capturing the environments that they're in. In Hawaii, also, you get a lot of the vistas and the green lush foliage along with the whatever. And then occasionally they do focus on the babes, but rarely, like especially like in the Hawaii segment, they show some close-ups of girls. But generally, it's solely focused on the surfing and like getting out there into the water.
Yeah,
and,
the
like,
scenery in the water.
Happening. Yeah. I think honestly, between this and Dead Silence, where, you know, we had a movie that took place during spring break, I think that movie probably had more babe shots, or, you know, like than this one does.
Yeah, people in bikinis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they also have a little bit of snowboarding as well, a little bit of bodyboarding.
Right.
So it's a nice little mix here and there.
To the kids, and then I even surfed on snow, and they're
and
like,
"What?"
It's
like, wow, I have no idea.
Like, do they know what snow is? Because they live in a dirt cave,
right?
And that's why I was like, do these kids know that? I'm like,
they pretend like they do.
Have they gone to school where they shown pictures and things? It seems like, you know, they're back in time, like it's literal caveman times where they don't even have like electricity or anything. Like it's
right.
That's what the future is. It's like going backwards in time. It's like the earth is so dead that we have nothing now besides us living in caves.
Yeah. Because people were not nice to the ocean.
Yes.
I mean, at the very beginning, I think, didn't the text say there's 13 survivors left? Or at least in this area. So it's
him and like 5 kids, and then what else?
I don't know. Like they showed, there was like an adult woman at the very beginning who basically said, Uncle Robbie's going to talk to you now, and then she leaves. Mm-hmm. And then there's, I don't know, like 6 to 8 kids around this campfire.
Yeah.
Uncle Rob. So, like, where the hell did all these kids come from, and why are you having so many freaking kids?
When the world is literally
unless you're
gonna
really
be...
trying to repopulate, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, but they were just like, oh, I guess we couldn't do it, so we're all gonna die now.
I don't know.
Like, the way that it was explained. Well, the way it was explained, like in the beginning, it was like the world is gonna die soon.
Yeah.
So let me tell you the story of when it was good on Earth.
But they don't explain why.
And then we talk shit that, like, oh, the human population ruined the Earth, so now we are all gonna die.
There were too many tourists at this spot, and so it got too dirty, and so that's bad.
They blame it on the tourists.
I mean, they do show some cutaway shots of, like, the natural disasters and the unnatural ones, like the oil spills that were very, that was a big thing in 1991. The Valdez thing. But, yeah, they don't really explain much about this life in 2040. Actually, they don't explain anything. They don't explain what they're doing for food. You mentioned school. I don't think there is any school. Because who the hell's going to teach these kids amongst, like, the 4 adults that are there? What is their plan going forward? I would have liked a little bit more context. If you're going to have this post-apocalyptic setting and these interstitials, flesh it out with something more than just, what was surfing like at this part of the country, Uncle Robbie? And then what was surfing like in this other part of the country, Uncle Robbie?
Well, I keep repeating myself. It's just like, how do they know about countries?
Right.
if their world is dying. That's why I was like, he's probably their teacher, and he has told them things about the history of the
history
world.
Of surfboards and how they are created.
And then historical, like anything that happened during when he was alive to whatever, when he was young up until now. He's probably told them other stories besides about surfing, or maybe he has before, and they were like, can you tell us the surfing story again? Yeah,
I mean, they kind of give the vibe this is meant to be something of a bedtime story thing, because it is nighttime with the campfire and whatnot, but whatever. And I wish, if they were going to go in with this environmental message, to explain things a bit more too. Like, at one point they just say, this spot got too crowded and people started leaving their garbage and that was bad. And then they just kind of ignore the environmental message until the very end, when they started showing images of the oil spill and, like, dead animals on the coast and whatnot, which and then they say, this great hot spell came because the world overheated, and we gathered as much petrol as we could and we escaped the world before the gangs could get us. And then basically end of story. Now we're in these caves.
What happened
who are these gangs?
I don't know.
Like, it's like this Mad Max scenario all of a sudden. Right. They don't show any of that, of course, because this is basically probably mostly, like, pre-existing footage that they just packaged into a surf movie.
Because it's like, how many years how many years have passed where the world is officially been poisoned to 2049 when he's telling the story?
I don't know.
Like, did it happen that same year that they were doing this surfing trip?
I mean, it had to have been before the kids were born. But how far?
But the way he told the story, it sounded as if it was like 20 to 30 years ago.
Yeah, like it was in 91 or 92.
Yeah. Is when this movie came out. Which I feel like maybe that's what this... I don't know if that's what this director was going for. Like, the world's going to be ending now. And then, like, this is the beginning of the end. And 2049 is, like, the end of the end.
Yeah. That's basically what they're trying to get to. It's like, if we don't do something now, then the world is going to be lost.
The world's going to die in, like, 50 years. which it kind of is.
Yeah, I mean we're obviously, nobody listened to the surf movie enough to make the proper changes in the world.
No one listened to An Inconvenient Truth or anything. No one watched Fern Gully. I mean, there's like all kinds of movies. There's
Earth. I almost said Surf Day. Earth Day was a very big thing in the early 90s.
Yeah, I know.
So
I was in like an Earth, like a club for saving the Earth when I was younger.
I don't know if I wasn't really part of any clubs, so no, I wasn't. But I mean, there may have been like little projects at school where we had to like draw pictures or something, maybe.
We would try to plant trees or some shit.
But I would, watch the specials on TV, and I remember there was the whole initiative of turn your lights out at a certain time on a certain day.
That was Earth Day, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, that kind of stuff happened in our house too, but, what can you really do as individuals? But that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, Earth Day is coming up in a couple of, I think it's like April 24th or something like that.
Oh.
So it's coming up. It's always in April, at the end of April.
So maybe this episode will be out around that time?
Yeah.
Okay. So unintentional tie-in once again possible here. But yeah, I mean at the end, Ian Abercrombie, Uncle Robbie looks at the camera and he says, "We lost so much," and he's like staring you down at the camera. He's like, "Motherfucker, do something about this Earth," and then like end a movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, everyone was saying that back then too. So they didn't add to the
this
conversation.
Was like the beginning of all. Yeah, this was like the beginning of all these types. Because I remember watching like educational stuff like this about saving the planet and stuff like that.
Yeah, it just doesn't say anything about what you should be doing to help.
Yeah, he didn't say no one recycled. I mean, I don't know if they knew that yet.
It's like, man, I didn't dump a bunch of oil into the ocean. That's not my fault, man.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I will never do that.
The corporations are the main source of pollution in this entire world. So make them watch your movie.
Right.
I didn't do it. That's really the movie. I mean, here's the thing. Like, this has probably the best soundtrack we've seen in a movie so far.
Yeah, I was looking for the soundtrack because I was sound hounding all the songs, and I was like, I might as well just make my own playlist of all the songs that were on here. Yeah, there's no soundtrack because I mean, it was really hard trying to find stuff for this movie, and I couldn't find that.
I don't think it got a wide release, which is really weird.
I mean, yeah, the music that they used for it was all good.
Maybe that's why it didn't get a wide release. They couldn't afford the licensing
for all these bands.
Anything home video. I don't know. I imagine it might have even been a struggle to do it for the streaming platform.
Oh, okay, I get it. So you think did the director use these songs without their permission?
No, I'm sure he got the permission.
Oh, okay.
But I'm saying, like, to release it on home video, that's probably a separate legal
Oh, so you gotta pay,
You gotta pay again for home video
and then,
release.
Yeah.
And then for streaming, that's a different
like
licensing
on DVD,
thing, too.
Yeah, streaming and all that stuff.
So, that's probably where the money might have fallen apart and it didn't get the distribution.
Yeah, I couldn't even find, like, how much... I think maybe I saw, like, it was like $500,000
for the budget.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think
it's hard to imagine it would have made that much money back because they really just went on a road tour with this movie.
Yeah.
They had like posters saying California, and then it did go other places because I saw other ads with flyers of it being showcased in like DC in December and some other places too. So it was something of a traveling showcase for a little while. But I don't know how widespread that was. But it's hard to imagine that they would have made their money back, or would have made enough to release it on home video without replacing the soundtrack, which they probably were not willing to do. That's really all we got on this, I think, unless you have other thoughts. It's a very simple movie, a lot of surfing, so much so that I kind of tuned out a little bit.
It kind of like mellowed me out, but then like when they started showing all the dead animals, I started crying because I was like, I can't see. Anything with dead, especially sea animals, I'm automatically crying. Like dead dolphins. If you want to make me cry, show me a dead dolphin.
Sure.
So then I was like crying at the end.
So it worked on you in that.
I mean, it worked. I mean, I've seen this stuff when I was younger. That's why I was in Earth Club when I was like 12.
Yeah. But yeah, in terms of like the surfing action itself, it just does kind of get a little bit repetitive. But the soundtrack, it's a good background movie, I think. So.
Yeah.
Let me talk really quickly about some of the cast and crew here. There's no awards to speak of course. No box office performance that we have available to us. And very little in terms of cast. So we have Ian Abercrombie as our lead, and really the only credited actor. He's also going to be in 1991 movie Zandalee and Puppet Master 3. He does a lot of like bit parts. He's like a lot of dignitaries and butlers, old man, maitre d's. That's the type of role he typically plays. He's been in stuff like Ice Pirates. He was the voice of Alfred Pennyworth in the Birds of Prey TV show, which is a cartoon series based off of, the DC villain cohort.
Okay.
And then also he's the voice of Palpatine and Darth Sidious in the Clone Wars TV show. Scott Dittrich? I don't know how to pronounce it, honestly. He has done a couple other movies. He was the director of Freewheeling back in 1976, starring Stacy Peralta, who was one of the, forefathers of skateboarding. He's one of the original skateboarders. He also did a movie called Asian Paradise in 1984, and he wrote a movie called Extreme Surfing, which Warren Miller directed. So he's in the extreme sports space as well, and he has a little bit of pedigree, which is another reason why I'm a little surprised this doesn't have more of a presence in the world. Robbie Page, the surfer who is in most of this, he was in Waiting for the Wave, High Water, and North Shore, basically as a surfer, He's also in a North Shore was a 1987 surfing movie that also starred Nia Peoples. So he just done a little bit of acting work, but all as like surfing stuff. And I do want to mention a couple of the cinematographers. There's actually like 6 of them that were listed there, but I'm only going to touch on a couple of them, just to mention that, they found good names for these people who know their stuff. So we have Larry Haynes, who's done Searching for Tom Curran, who also does appear in this movie. The 1998 version of Blue Crush. So that's not a fictional movie like the one you might have seen in the early 2000s. This is a pure surfing movie. And then also Heavy Water. You have Derek Hoffman. He's a camera operator on things like Hawaii Five-0, Survivor. He's been doing that for years upon years, and that team has 4 Emmy nominations because of their cinematography work on Survivor. Are You the One? He did the 2015 version of Point Break, Surf Girls, Boarding House, and Fiberglass and Megapixels. So he's well entrenched in terms of like the underwater cinematography stuff. That's his specialty and does quite well in that. And then the lead cinematographer is Pat Darren. You might know his work from movies such as Thrashin', which is a skateboarding movie, Gleaming the Cube, Police Academy 4, which has actually some skateboarding segments. I think that's one of Tony Hawk's first appearances on film. And he's also done stuff like music videos for Outkast. He did the Miss Jackson video, Black Crows, The Savage Garden, I Want You.
Okay.
And then also a movie called Freewheeling. So he's done some stuff. So you have really good cinematographers putting this whole thing together, and that's one of the main reasons to watch that, if not the only reason to watch this. So we can move on to true crime and pop culture now.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about Robbie Page.
The lead surfer.
The lead surfer in this movie. In 1992, Robbie, who was 26 at the time, was heading on a trip to Japan following a Spanish leg of some world tour he was in. It was for the Marui Pro, Marui Pro tour. And upon landing in Tokyo, he was pulled aside by customs, who found several tabs of acid left over in his wallet. Page which he forgot that he put them in there.
Okay.
So his punishment was 66 days in jail, and 30 of which was spent in solitary confinement. And while he was in prison, the world tour was in Chiba, Japan, which was like a few hours away from Tokyo. Mm-hmm. He could not compete in this. And he was also given an 18-month ban from the competition, voted by his fellow tour surfers. And then, according to this author from this website, it's from surfeuropemag.com.
Okay.
Many of those in favor of the ban were themselves partial to the occasional illicit substance. So, and then a quote from Rob. He said, "I was just out of a solitary box, and I sat there with tears in my eyes and said, 'Don't try and throw me off the tour.' He continues, 'They looked me in the eyes and voted me off the tour, and it blew me away.'" So he wasn't able to compete after that. But then I thought this was interesting because last week we talked about, in the Money episode, about the French president Francois Mitterrand.
Yeah.
And so 4 months later, Robbie Page was living in the house of French President Francois Mitterrand, he started dating his granddaughter.
Interesting. Uncle Robbie did not tell any of these stories.
Yeah, he didn't talk about him getting arrested in Japan for forgetting that he had acid in his wallet.
Yeah, the Japan stop of this world tour was conveniently missing from the movie.
Yeah, they didn't show any Asian countries, I don't think. So on TV, this was June 4th, 1991, was a Tuesday. So on ABC, you had Who's the Boss, Head of the Class, Roseanne, Coach, and then China Beach. Do you remember China Beach?
I do know of China Beach. I never watched it.
Me neither.
It definitely seemed like it was going to be too adult for my tastes.
Yeah,
it was like a soap opera in the Vietnam War, was it?
Yeah, it was like the Vietnam War, and it's kind of like a mixture of like MASH but with like Baywatch.
Yeah.
It went on for 4 seasons and it ended in 1991.
Like, but sexy and serious.
Yeah.
And deep.
Yeah. But that was on. I just remember seeing commercials for it, and I don't know.
I would have tuned in to Head of the Class, but not China Beach.
Right. I would have. Yeah, this whole entire lineup I would have been watching. I would have been watching Who's the Boss.
Yeah.
Head of the Class, Roseanne. Probably not.
Oh
Coach.
Yeah, definitely Roseanne.
Probably not Coach.
Yeah, I wasn't big into Coach either.
Yeah. On CBS was a Rescue 911, and then on NBC was Matlock, In the Heat of the Night, which we've spoken about before. That's that cop drama with Carol O'Connor. And then after that is a show just called C. Everett Koop. Do you know who C. Everett Koop is?
Who is an attorney general, right?
Yes.
But is this a show or is this just like a special?
I had to look it up because I was like, why just use your name?
Like a TV movie miniseries?
It was, so C. Everett Koop, he was the 13th Surgeon General of the United States.
Surgeon General, yeah. I said attorney.
Oh, yeah, the Surgeon General of the United States. He was under President Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush.
Had the chin beard only.
Yes. And that he was the Surgeon General from 1982 to 1989. He's mostly well known. He's probably the only well known Surgeon General due to his fumbling onset of the spread of HIV/AIDS.
Oh.
That's what he's...
I just remember he was a very public presence, and I think it was mostly because of his anti-smoking and anti-drugs. Like, he would appear in those ads.
He
made himself
known
like
for
a TV
his
presence.
Yeah, he was known for his work on the tobacco use and then also abortion.
I was too young to know about
abortion.
His work with that and also HIV. I would have known him from watching TV commercials as a kid with anti-smoking messages.
Anyway, he had his own show. I looked it up. It's just like a 6-part documentary series that just had his name as the title. And I don't know. It doesn't even say the name of this episode. And it was probably just him probably doing an episode about not smoking. I don't know.
So it was a
1-hour show on NBC.
A documentary miniseries, basically.
Yeah. It lasted for 6 weeks. And 8 million people watched.
I wonder if it went through his toils and tribulations to a degree.
Yeah, I have no idea. And I have some popular video games that were around.
Yeah, I was gonna say the only experience I know of surfing is from playing California games and TNC Surf Design.
So the video games that were popular in June of 1991, I'm gonna name the Game Boy games.
All right, I wonder how many have I played already.
Blaster Master Jr.
There's one called Blaster Master Boy. Is that the same thing?
I don't know. It says Blaster Master Jr. was popular around this time. And then there is...
I think it is Blaster Master Boy in the U.S.
Oh, and then Japan it's Junior?
Yeah.
Okay. And then also it's Final Fantasy Legends 3.
I have not played that one. I've only played through the first one so far.
And then I think we spoke about this a while ago, but the Bill and Ted's Excellent Video Game Adventure that was on NES. That was also
yeah, we did talk
popular.
About that back in the day.
And then also Bible Adventures. I remember.
Okay. Yeah, I never played that one either.
I think we had that in school.
There's quite a few Bible games that were released by a company called Wisdom Tree, and so I'm not sure if that was one of them. I don't remember if they did that, but yeah, there's a lot of unlicensed Bible games on NES and Game Boy.
And then moving on to the Billboard 100, I'm going to do the bottom 5. That's as of June 8th, 1991. And then number 100 is Bitter Tears by INXS. I know it.
We just recently heard that on
satellite radio. Satellite radio.
Yeah.
It's I thought you were going to say I thought we recently heard it because I was we just did because I always listen to them.
Yeah, you played it.
I played it 5 minutes before we started and I was yeah, we did. But yeah, it's probably played on the 90s Sirius channel. Yeah, it's just another version of Suicide Blonde. It kind of sounds like that.
Except more generic.
Except him saying Bitter Tears. I know I've heard this song before, but it was just okay. That was on the charts for 10 weeks and it peaked at number 46. Number 99 was Sadness Part 1 by Enigma, and I have this on CD. I used to play the crap out of Enigma.
Anybody who watched TV, that was probably one of the songs that was part of those compilation commercials.
Probably like Pure Moods or something.
Yeah, you probably heard a snippet of that during a Pure Moods commercial.
Yeah, but I had the CD and I used to listen to the CD a lot. And that was on 18 weeks on the chart, and it peaked at number 5 at some point. And then number 98, I've never heard this song until, honestly, right before we recorded. It's an R&B song called Something in My Heart by Michelle A.
I don't know.
I don't know. I did not know it until I heard it, and I was like, oh, okay, it's just, like a basic R&B song.
Is it Michelle A, or is it one word Michelle A?
So it's Michel apostrophe Le.
Ah.
So Michelle A.
Ah, okay.
I don't know anything about her, so I feel bad.
Well, we'll find the video and put it on the website.
We'll have the video up. That was 22 weeks on the chart, and it peaked at number 31. And then at number 97, we've talked, like, this song has been on the charts about the same amount of time as Everything I Do For You. It's One More Try by Timmy T. Okay. Like, that was, like, number 1 at some point and earlier in the year. Yeah. So now it's just, like, it's been on the charts for 25 weeks, and it did peak at number 1. I
feel like that's a song that's kind of been lost to time. Like, it doesn't get much play, even though it's a
I would listen to this song more than Everything I Do. I Do It For You.
A lot of these songs I would listen to more than the Bryan Adams song. I'm just saying that doesn't really get the play time that other non-number 1 hits from the era gets.
Yeah. Like, the only time that you would hear this is if they did the top 40 for 1990 or 91.
Yeah.
On Sirius. That's the only time I would hear this song.
It's so weird to think about how some hits have staying power and some just don't.
Yeah. And then number 96 is the song How Much Is Enough by The Fix. I've never heard this song until an hour ago. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know if I know any of their songs other than One Thing Leads to Another.
There's Saved by Zero.
I'd have to hear it to know if I know it.
But, I'm not gonna.
No, that's fine. But yeah, I don't recognize that one either.
Those are the only 2 songs I know by The Fix, and I didn't even know they made more music after that. So. But anyways, that was 11 weeks on the chart, and it peaked at number 35.
So on to rankings and ratings. Where on your 1 to 5 star scale would you put Rolling Thunder?
I mean, I was going through like a 2 or a 3. And mainly because, like, the cinematography is good. The music is good. And then, I mean, you get the message.
Yeah.
But I think I'm just going to give it a 2. I kind of wished it was just, like, a documentary.
Yeah, I honestly probably would have preferred to see more home movie stuff in there to use as the buffers.
Just show me all the
campfire stuff.
Yeah, like the blooper reels of like the good and bad times of surfing.
Yeah, I'm cool
and
watching
play
you
cool music
hang around with your friends.
Yeah,
and have them steal your clothes and you're running around naked or whatever the hell else happened in that one scene. And
then that one guy who ate something bad and he had to run to the bathroom.
Yeah, like these little silly bits. Like, that's fine. Like, just throw some of that stuff in there. That'd be cool. I'm on the same wavelength as you.
I hated the storytelling from the little kids being like, and then what? Yeah. It was just too cheesy. Like, that was too cheesy and it was annoying me. And all I wanted to see was, like, the pretty scenery, and then and
some cool tricks.
We don't
tricks. Really know what the cool tricks look like.
It's kind of like watching, I don't know if they had this like on the. I forgot what channel it was that did like all the BMX bike stuff.
Like ESPN2.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Like This should have been shown on, like, ESPN2.
Yeah.
Because I would have watched it.
Yeah, that would have been a good place for it back when they were doing their extreme sports stuff. Now it's just, like, extra college football or whatever.
Yeah.
On my 0 to 4 star scale, I'm with you. I was thinking about doing, like, 2.5 or even maybe 3 just because of, like, some of the structure and, like, the cinematography and the music and, you know, it's entertaining. But I think the other stuff really pulls it down. I'm going to give it a 2, just a straight middle of the road 2, because it doesn't tell us enough about the surfers. Like, I don't know any of them now. I don't even know Robbie Page now.
But I don't think that was supposed to be the message. I think it was just going to be like, hey, we had a good life on this good planet and we're fucking it up. And now we're going to die. So I don't...
There's plenty of time to tell both stories.
Yeah,
to say,
I guess
here's who me and my friends were, and also this is why it's sad that everyone's gone, is because of this relationship, and they just don't do that, and the message was kind of shoehorned in. It just didn't really fit. So it's a solid 2. Every movie's worth watching once. Would you watch this again?
I mean, yes and no. If it was on ESPN2. But I don't even watch that channel at all. Like, if it was on some extreme sport channel, then yes. But I don't think it's going to be played anywhere, so no, I wouldn't.
You know, I mean, I think if I had access to it on a regular basis, I think it would be good to have as a background movie. I think that's where its place lies, because you don't have to pay a whole lot of attention to this. Yeah. You can just kind of tune out the story bits. You have a good soundtrack playing in the background, and if you want to look up and watch some surfing for a couple minutes, you got that. So I think that's sort of, you know, that's its niche, is as a background movie. That's the only reason I would probably watch it again. Otherwise, I'd try to find some other surf movies. I'd watch Freewheelin'. I'd watch, you know, Thrashin', you know, some of these other Warren Miller stuff to see how it compares instead. But if you out there do want to watch Rolling Thunder, as of this recording in April 2022, it's available on the Surf Network, which is available through Amazon Prime, and maybe VHS. As always, check your local listings. You can listen to us on all of your major podcasting platforms. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tell your friends. You can email us at 1991movierewind@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Letterboxd. Just search 1991 Movie Rewind or go to 1991movierewind.com for the full list of movies, along with show notes and more. So now with Rolling Thunder, we've gotten the April showers out of our system. We're going to go into the May flowers next week with Wildflower. That's available on Tubi, Vudu, IMDb TV, digital rental, VHS, and DVD. We will see you then.